Welcome. My name is Damon Brown. You're watching Bringing Worth TV. I'm an entrepreneurial coach. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. I'm here to help you bloom. I am one of y'all, and I've been one of y'all for a while. It's Bringing Worth TV. Come to you live on Wednesdays at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free at all the links below. You can also get my latest book right next to my big head, the complete Bring Your Worth collection, which is a best of sorts from my most recent bestsellers, including The Ultimate Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, that trilogy, as well as Bring Your Worth, which of course is the name of my show and the publishing company, as well as my personal favorite, Built from Now: How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. The book came out at the heights of the pandemic, and so that's why I'm most proud of that. And hopefully that'll get you motivated and help you get your thing out there. You can also catch this show on many different platforms. You might be watching me on LinkedIn. You have the main platform, one of the main platforms over at YouTube at bringyourworth.tv. You can also catch me and the program over on Spotify, which has some of the classic episodes, as well as you might be watching this on Twitch. Shout out to y'all. If you know my background, not only was I a journalist, but I also was a big video game historian. So shout out to y'all over at Twitch. I got two little kids, 12 and 9, and so actually almost 12, so 11 and 9, and I'm playing a lot of games right now just to catch up because if you're an active parent like I am, there's a whole swath of things that you did not experience since you had kids. So you know the vibes if you're any type of guardian. Listen, in case you missed it, last Sunday I had a best of show, Get Better Contracts, Protect Your Intellectual Property, a step-by-step guide. Man, I had a call earlier today with some colleagues of mine. I've been talking to folks a lot. If you coach with me, you know the vibes too. We gotta get our intellectual property together. I'm even tightening up mine as we speak. We can always do better as far as looking at our contracts, uh, seeing what we're signing, having some type of legacy, even if we don't have a family and people to pass it on to in that way, just protecting the intellectual property that we create. And if you're creating something, particularly independently, you got to make sure that your IP is together. Even if you're working with other folks, make sure that your stuff is tight. Today's show, finally start your business. Live Q&A, Bring Your Worth 422. Part one of four. Part one of four. Part one of four. This month or this week is National Small Business Week. Shout out to Gwen Moran over at the newsletter Bloom Anywhere. I'll throw the link in the comments. Shout out to you, Gwen. Hope you're doing wonderful. She mentioned it was National Small Business Week, and I was like, wow. Number one, a lot of us have small businesses and or do startups. There's a subtle difference. We can talk about that later, or you can go ahead and ask me more questions about it in the comments. I'm like, this is kind of the vibe we're going in. And there's a reason why we should discuss this right now. I'll get in deeper into it as I did in my newsletter at joindamon.me. So not only are we talking about starting your business today, all month we're going to be talking about this live on Wednesdays. The first one, which we're doing right now, is talking about how to get your storefront together, where to do your brick and mortar and get the energy out there. That's one. The second thing is how to set up the products, how to create the things that you're doing. Some of y'all do physical products. Some of y'all, similar to myself, do digital products or online products. We're going to talk about that in the next episode. Again, it's going to be live next Wednesday. The Wednesday after that, we're going to talk about how to actually get paid for the stuff you're doing. It's called e-commerce, right? So the hand-to-hand, or if you're doing it online and virtually. And the last one, which would be the last Wednesday of this month, we're going to be talking about how to actually exit and sell your company. I've gone through that process. The last startup I had was called Cuddler. It was an app that got really popular about 10 years ago. And me and my co-founder, shout out to y'all, end up selling the company after we reached it to much higher heights. That whole process is what we're going to talk about this month. I'm excited about it. The whole series is right there. So it's already locked in, all that stuff. So if you click on the link right there, there's all the videos are there, the times and all that stuff. If you click on the actual videos, then you can hit the notification bell. and you'll get a heads up when the video is about to go live, and then we can have a conversation because all of them are going to be live. These are not pre-recorded. This is like having me in a coaching session or having me at a keynote, and I do the Q&As afterwards. Same type of vibe. I really want to bring it to y'all for multiple reasons. And this whole series is sponsored by Shortform, your ultimate book reader companion. Shout out to Shortform for supporting the video. And let me go ahead and share a brief thing about Shortform as well. The technology was angry this morning. Oh, it's working this morning. Good job. Good job, computer. All right, Shortform. I love it for two big reasons. The first reason is that it allows you to learn about books that you might be curious about and then actually purchase them through the platform and or be able to understand it through the platform. So you see some of my favorite books here, Fast Food Nation, shout out to Eric Schlosser, one of my favorite nonfiction books of all time that has stood up incredibly well. Unfortunately, we have not made many of those changes that we need to do with the capitalist system and making us healthier. Of course, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin and my guy, 40 Laws of Power, Robert Greene. So if you're curious about Robert Greene and the work that he does, then you can click on there and actually let's do a quick search. We'll do Robert Greene. Good, do it live. So then we have all of Robert Greene's books. So it's like, I want to learn more about The Art of Seduction or the 50th Law they did with 50 Cent. Then it's like, oh, there's also podcasts and there's plenty of stuff going on. Mark Manson, of course, with his popular stuff, Jay Shetty, and then Diary of a CEO. Shout out to the founder over there. So you can kind of go ahead and get a general idea as far as what the books are about and what the author is about. But of course, the beautiful part about this, with someone like myself, and I have my books right behind me, but I also have another set of books. I have books in a box. It's crazy. I got to honestly shout out to my family who's always had a bunch of books. Then you can deep dive into the books that you already have. For instance, as I had earlier, if we go to, say, the 48 Laws of Power, and I'm curious about one particular law in the 48 Laws of Power, fantastic book. The book is like 300,000 words, though. The average book is probably about 60,000 words. So it's a big book. And obviously, there's 48 laws. It's like, what's that law about not making yourself an island? You can look it up right there and be like, oh, yeah, don't isolate yourself, which I highly recommend. And then it gives a breakdown of what the chapter is about. Not as tight or as tiny or frankly as superficial as the Cliff Notes, but enough for you to get your arms around it and really be able to talk about it. So if you have a bunch of books like I do, this is a great companion. They gave me a special offer just for y'all where you can get a free trial as well as getting a discount for if you decide to go and go forward with it. Be sure to check it out. And of course, you'll be supporting the channel and all the content that the channel is into. All right. So thank you again for the sponsor Shortform. So with today's topic, as getting started on your business and taking those first steps, I talk about it quite a bit in my weekly newsletter, also weekly, also on Wednesdays, 5:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Free newsletter, you can check it out there. Of course, you'll be supporting the channel through that as well. And also you'll be able to get insights that I only share with my coaching clients and things of that nature. I talk about that today where there's not really a good time or a perfect time to start something. It's just not part of the formula. In the newsletter, I talk about having a kid. As I mentioned, I have a few kids, so it's like I have my beautiful 11-year-old as well as my beautiful 9-year-old, both boys. There was never a perfect time for me and my former partner to have kids. It didn't make any sense. Like there's no perfect time to do that. But when it happens, then you find out it actually is the perfect time. You can make it work. Starting a business is very similar. Again to that in the newsletter. But starting a business is very similar. There is no perfect time to do your startup. Like there's not. My first startup was right after I had my first kid. Baby sitting there and then going and then I'm doing that first startup called So Quotable. I talk about it again extensively in my book, The Complete Bring Your Worth Collection. There's no perfect time for that. My journalism career began during the what we would call at the time the Great Recession, which was the dot-com burst back in 1999, 2000. That's when I started my journalism career. And then went on to write for Playboy, the New York Post, ARP, the magazine. Of course, it led to books and ultimately led me to y'all, a couple decades later. But that started at a time when it sounded like it was frustrating to start. So that's kind of the energy that we're going to talk about today is that, the time automatically passes. And it's like double dutch. If you're waiting for the exact perfect moment where you're not going to get hit by the rope, you're going to be waiting a long time. You're going to be one of those people, going back to my East Coast roots. But double Dutch is when you have two jump ropes and one person at one end, one person at the other, and then there's a person that's trying to jump in between the ropes and going in between, and then you start getting fancy, you start dancing. I was never really good at it, but my mom and other folks, as well as my stepsister, were fantastic at it. It's worth looking online. Yes, you want to have good timing of it, but you don't want things to be perfect. Otherwise, you're going to be one of those kids that's getting yelled at because you keep going like this, but you're never getting into the actual foray. Or as Brene Brown would say, you're never getting into the arena. So today we're going to talk about getting into the arena and what that requires. First question I get, I got this question so much when I first started coaching about a decade ago. Do I need a website for my business? Yes, yes, absolutely yes, for sure, for sure. There's lots of places that you can get the URL, which is the little name www.mineisdamonbrown.net. That's fine. We can talk about that in a future episode. Jump in the comments if you have any questions about that. But we're talking more fundamental. Absolutely, absolutely yes, you do need a website. I remember talking to a potential coaching client when I first started, and they were so excited. They're like, "Hey, Damon, it's good to meet with you. We met at the perfect time. The amount of traffic that's coming, where people are learning about my business, it's jumped up so much, and it just happened." And I was like, "That's fantastic. Tell me more about your business and what you do. But what's this jump in traffic about?" And they're like, "Yeah, today I crossed over 100 likes on Facebook, and so my website is really popping." And I do play poker sometimes, but I did not have the poker face at the time. And I was like, wait, rewind that back. What do you mean? And they're like, no, you don't understand. On my Facebook page, I crossed 100 likes. And I said, your Facebook page, your Twitter page, whatever, that's not your website. That's not your home. You don't own that. If you go to bringyourworth.tv, I have plenty of episodes that talk about how I left a lot of the social media, how we don't actually own social media, we actually rent it. At any time, the Zuckerbergs or the Musk or whoever of the world can turn that right off. You need a place, just like a brick and mortar spot, that people can come to. Bringyourworth.tv, I own that URL. DamonBrown.net, that's not going anywhere. That's Damon's home. Join Damon.me, my newsletter, which we'll talk about in a little bit. That's mine. No one can take that away from me. You might partner with certain platforms like a YouTube to go ahead and actually send stuff out. But as far as actually having the thing, Facebook or Meta, whatever, can decide, yeah, I don't like what Damon has to say. We're going to turn that off. That also means that whatever business you're making, just like you wouldn't go and build your brick and mortar, your corner shop on quicksand or in the Everglades in the swamp, because that stuff's going to sink. It's not stable. So, do you need a website? Absolutely. 5,000%. Non negotiable. I think we get confused sometimes because there's so many different platforms or different ways to get our message out that we mistake that. And frankly, it's a lot easier. You don't need to hire a designer. You don't have to go ahead and tell people to come to your website. They can just find you on whatever search engine that platform, such as a Twitter or a Facebook might be using, or a Snapchat. That's that direction you want to go. And and I've had whole episodes about this, so I'll keep this brief. I know people who have multi-million dollar businesses looking in the eye right now, multi-million dollar businesses. And the main way they get their business is through DMs on an Instagram or people reaching out on a WhatsApp. So those days when Instagram was down, those days when WhatsApp had an issue, those times when Twitter went a totally different direction, and maybe people weren't rocking with it as much. Who knows what happened to their businesses? I don't want you to be in that position. So that first step, as far as starting a business, get your website down. Get the URL. I'll give some recommendations if you need them, or I'll go and do a future episode about it. And then get your website together. Get your website together because you need a home. And without a home, then yeah, apartments are fine, but you're not your own landlord. And that's not exactly the place you want to be when you're starting off. Do the investment now. My first personal favorite place to run my website is a place called Strikingly. I'll go ahead and pop it up in a second. I've been working with them for, man, how long? I don't even know how long. But as I say, make a website in minutes. Trusted by millions of entrepreneurs and creatives, including me. It's me. I'm the person. And you see some examples like here. And so they also do domain names as well. I like Strikingly for a number of different reasons. Number one, it's WYSIWYG, which for my generation, old school, more Generation X, that stands for what you see is what you get. This goes back to the late 70s, all through the 80s, back when I was learning about technology. What you see is what you get means that it's very much plug and play. You can move things around and set things up fairly easily. That's one. Number two, it does not require a web designer. And shout out to my former web designers. I had a longtime web designer. I see you, Andy. And they decided to move on and they're doing something different. That's what kind of put me back on my heel. And I was like, I was happy for them. And I love that they moved on to their next thing career wise. But it put me in a position where I'm like, do I want to hire another web designer? In this research, I ended up finding Strikingly, which was fantastic. So it allows you to move things around that are most importantly for me, multimedia. So things that were not static. So I have a lot of journalism friends, as I mentioned, my background is journalism. And it's like, all right, I want to have all my newspaper or magazine articles on there or on my blogs. Great, easy. Then I'm connected to Heroic Public Speaking. Shout out to the folks at Heroic. So I'm connected to them. I'm connected to TED. Shout out to Chris Anderson. I'm connected to all these organizations where people are public speakers. In fact, that's some of the people that I coach. And so they're like, I want to put all my talks up there so I can get hired as a speaker or I can have a portfolio. Great. And then you have people like me who are launching apps, have this TV show. I have my books behind me. I've done 27 books. I got my books behind me. I'm doing the speaking over here, and whatever, whatever. And I still have my writing for Playboy and other places. And so having what I would call mixed media, more from the art community, it's really good when it comes to mixed media. When we talk of multimedia, we're often talking about um, we're talking about video and all these things. No, this is more mixed media where there's a few different things that are happening at the same time. And so to give you an example, here is my website over at damonbrown.net. And so that was my time on the TED stage, the second stage of TED many years ago, as you can tell, new baby as well as a much younger Damon. And so, based in Las Vegas, helping non-traditional entrepreneurs bloom. You see the links, and then you can grab my audiobooks, et cetera, et cetera. And then my videos are built right into there. So this is called a speaker reel or a sizzle reel. So it's right in there. So if people want to hire me as a speaker, or a consultant, go from there. My quiz over at buildfromnowquiz.com. You can go and take the quiz right here. And then it's a breakdown of me. And then the videos I've done in the past with TEDx Toledo, and ASJ Austin, which was the beginning of Bring Your Worth. The other cool part about this too is that it allows you to actually purchase things through here, which we'll get much deeper into the second episode of this series. And so if you click on here, and you have coaching and learning with Damon. Then you have my whole coaching process. If you want to work one-on-one with me, the book and the breakdown of that, and then the side hustle box set, the passive writer, shout out to Jeanette Hurt, and you can purchase them right through there. So Strikingly works really, really well for me personally. I love it. If you want to go and check them out, I believe they have some type of discount that's happening. I think it's still going on. Be sure and check them out though. And again, I've been working with them for a good, man, 6 years, 7 years. It's been a while, and I really, really appreciate the work that they're doing and how they're setting things up. Another thing you want to do is have some type of lead in, if possible, if it makes sense, for the product that you're launching. These are called lead pages, hence me suggesting lead pages. A lead page in general is something that can be short term or long term, depending on the product. So, for instance, I've done online courses in the past. Some of you have taken them. So, let's say I had a new online course. And it's like, okay, how to do such and such and such. Great. A lead page, or also called a lead magnet, allows you to build a website or a page that leads people in and gets them interested in whatever you're creating. That allows you to funnel them, as they say in the marketing world, funnel them to the product page. That allows you to have them sign up for a wait list, things of that nature. And essentially, it's equivalent of they're really popular here in Vegas, but it's the equivalent of having a guy or a gal on the street with a big arrow, like come this way, or getting a billboard, which are also very common here in Vegas. I didn't realize how uncommon billboards were at this point until I moved to Vegas. I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like LA. I lived in the Midwest for a little while, and billboards were not as popular. I digress. But having something like that where it encourages that potential customer to come in. Lead pages works really well because their only thing they do is lead pages, unlike some of the other stuff that we have here. Lead pages, I was fortunate enough for them to interview me for their podcast. Shout out to y'all over there a couple years ago. So right there in the link is actually the interview that we had with that we had a while ago, and breaking that down. And then you can also learn more about lead pages at the bottom here. Of course, Bob, shout out to Bob. But if we click on here, then we could also go a little bit deeper into the platform. Converting. That was the word I was looking for. Wednesday feels like Friday to me. Converting people from prospectors to actually getting involved. I actually have a special deal with them only for bringyourworth.tv folks. You can click on the link. But the lead pages allows you to set up something where you have a front page specifically for a product or a podcast, one specific thing, encouraging people to get involved. Again, this has nothing to do with social media. There's nothing to do with putting it on this platform or that platform. You're driving people to buy your product, learn more about your stuff, come to your website. This is an advertisement, a marketing thing for you and your business. And you own it. You own it. Be sure and check out lead pages if you want to learn more about that process. And I think it's really important to take that seriously and to understand, look, no one's going to be advertising or marketing your business for you. If you have a book, you write it, and then you don't tell anybody, then you've created a 60,000 word diary. If you launch an app and you don't say that the app is in the app store, particularly nowadays, I launched my apps almost 12 years ago. In fact, it was 12 years ago. Nowadays, things like lead pages, as well as having a home on the internet like Strikingly, if you're starting your new business right now, at this moment, you gotta start building that proverbial brick and mortar. It begins with having a website. I personally love Strikingly, and again, they have a deal for you. Starting with your website and also having a lead page for the products that you have that you really want to promote right now. If you want to go deeper into the dynamics of getting your product out there, getting things set up, making sure that the nuts and bolts are ready as you move forward. Again, the episode that ran recently, get better contracts to protect your intellectual property. When we work too much with social media platforms, when we give away our power and we expect things to naturally rise to the top because we've done a good product or good service or we have a good business or we look or actually are trustworthy, then there's a lot of gaps that can happen within the beginning of your business. If you're starting your business right now with me at this moment, you got to make sure you understand the ins and out of the property, intellectual property, as well as the contracts that you're signing. The platforms I'm recommending today, as far as Strikingly, as well as Lead Pages, cool. They're cool people. You can trust that. As you go further along and you bring in more partners to build your business, you need to make sure that the brass tacks are covered. So I would love to hear from y'all. Are you just building a website? Have you had a website for a while? Have you been relying more on social media platforms than you're comfortable with? Or are you fine having your business strictly on social media platforms and then just seeing where things go from there? Let me know in the comments and let me know what questions. I've done both. That's why, that's why I can speak from experience. So I highly, highly recommend um, thinking about some of the stuff we talked about today and what are the questions that you have in regards to social media, in regards to having a website, and why a website is required. I would love to get your thoughts, even if you have an argument where you're not sure if a website makes sense for you. Let me know. I love to hear. Entrepreneur Coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV live Wednesdays, 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free on any of the major platforms. YouTube is the main platform right now, but I'm on multiple platforms. Be sure and check it out. And this is episode 422. 22? 22. There's lots of good content on there. We're approaching 5 years of this show. If I haven't said it before, I will say it right now. I appreciate y'all and thank you for riding with me and allowing me to be with you on your journey. Today we're talking about the beginning of starting your business. This is the first episode of four. Finally starting your business. It's time. And it's part of a four-part series. Start your business now. It'll be all through this month. You can go ahead and subscribe or click on the link below. You'll see the whole series, Wednesdays, live. You can click on any of the videos, you'll get a notification about what's up. So we talk a lot about, do you need a website? Another good question. What does your storefront look like? Now, I talked about damonbrown.net a little bit earlier, where that allows you to buy things through my website. But let's go a little bit deeper into this idea. You absolutely need a storefront. If you do not have a storefront, then how are people going to buy your products? How are they going to know your offerings? How do they actually interact with you? That's a big, big question. I'll go ahead and put damonbrown.net back on there so you can see what I'm talking about. And so again, it shows at damonbrown.net, shout out to Strikingly for the website platform. It allows me or allows you as a potential customer or someone who's coming through that's interested in it to learn what I'm about, like who is Damon, quite literally, and then to even purchase my products, my coaching, my new complete Bring Your Worth collection, some of my older titles, as far as passive writer, everything is in there. This is my storefront for everything. It allows me, if you're interested in the book, you can collect the paperback or digital version of The Passive Writer. Again, shout out to Jeanette Hurt. And then you can add it to the cart. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can add it to the cart and pay for it right in there. So it's an all-encompassing thing. Just recently, just like last few days, there was a lawsuit, a long-standing lawsuit. This lawsuit was happening for so long. I think when the lawsuit first came up, I was living in Silicon Valley and hadn't done my first startup yet. We're talking like 10, 15 years ago. Between Apple and one of the major video game platforms called Epic Games. You know them from Fortnite and other folks like that. For decade plus, Apple would automatically take 30% or so from any sale that was done on the App Store. 30%. If you have $1, you're getting 70 cents. They just lost the lawsuit. So now, in many cases, I don't think it's all cases, Apple cannot take at least that full 30%. They've been fighting about that in courts again for 10 to 15 years. I remember when it first came out, right when the App Store was launched. If you think about when the App Store was launched, around 2010, I'm not kidding. So it's been a good 15 years. They just lost that lawsuit. So now, if I'm a customer buying something from Epic Games or one of these platforms, finally, the company itself, when I send them $1, they might actually be getting $1. Other than that, they're getting 70 cents or less, depending on the situation. Think about that. That was one of the reasons why I have my storefront. This was a conscious decision. It was a conscious decision for me to be like, no, 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 no. I don't want the middlemen. I want it so that if you, it's like, hey, I want a copy of the complete Bring Your Worth collection. And it's like, great, I will send you a signed copy. It's like, awesome. Go to damebrown.net, put as many as you like in the cart. We can make more. Put in the cart. Cool. When you go ahead and put it in the cart and you pay for it, then it goes to my bank. It goes to my credit union. And then I go ahead and take care of it for you. It goes to my business as opposed to having all these different things. If you end up doing purchases through a Facebook, if you end up having your customers purchase through, I think Twitter might start allowing purchases now. I'm not on Twitter like I used to be because reasons. But if you do your purchases and have your customer buy things through that, then you automatically have a chunk. We'll close that up. You automatically have a chunk going to your audience. I'm sorry, to the third party. And so if you do not have a proper storefront, then you're literally leaving money on the table. And then how are people supposed to get to what you're doing? So your storefront, in my opinion, should be a place where they learn about your business, also about you a little bit, because they don't know who you are. So even if it's an about page or something simple, one. Number two, all the products and services you have available. And then number three, ideally a way to just put it in the cart and purchase it. Now, if you do a lot more in-person stuff, even that can be helpful because I've done keynotes all across the country and then have done a couple overseas. Somebody might not be ready to buy when they see you, or when they see you like in person and you have your goods out there. Like if I had my books laid out, they might be like, hey, I might not want it, but my cousin would love this book, would love this product. Then what? You can tell them to follow you on Instagram, DM me, and you can get a copy of the book. That might be easier, but the level of trust that you have when you have an actual storefront, the amount of trust that you can have in your system when people can buy things directly from you. Again, you can go grab any of my stuff right now. I don't have to go and stop the phone and be like, oh, well, let me do it. So having that system as strong as possible is why you have a storefront. We're talking right now, we're hanging out, we got the live show, I see your comments. Great. I don't have to worry about if someone wants to buy a copy of the book or wants to check out my coaching services because it's already automated. That's what the storefront does to you. So in the short term, yes, being on social media, having people DM you if they want more information, that in the short term, it feels quicker. I don't need a storefront. Hit me up on Instagram. Cool, whatever, right? And I know some people that do that and it works for them really well. The problem is that you're always going to be working, number one. Number two, it doesn't have the same trust as there being a damonbrown.net. That's the website. You're just going to give me money? You're just going to DM it to me? Send it on Cash App or whatever is hot whenever you happen to be listening to this? Nah, it doesn't have that quite that gravitas. And so As you set up your new business, I would highly recommend you think about what you want your storefront to look like. That really matters a lot. When it comes to storefronts, I mean, we have talked about the OG. We have talked about Shopify, and they are the OG for a reason. I mean, again, you see the list of names. Shout out to some of those names. I think y'all might have some of y'all, some of y'all in my closet. Shopify allows this, allows you to push your particular products or services onto the social media platforms, allows you to do seamless checkout, and as they say, it's all in one, where it takes care of the payments and the secure transactions and even some of the shipping, though I think you still need to be involved in some of those ways. What I like about Shopify is that we're going to talk about e-commerce a little bit in the second discussion. I'm sorry, in the third discussion about getting paid. So be sure and stay tuned for that. When it comes to getting paid in e-commerce and so forth, one of the nice things is that Shopify is the leader, I would say the market leader with this. So they probably already have the information on your potential customer. And so if I go into Shopify and I'm like, hey, I want to buy something for my mother for Mother's Day, I can go on there because we're like, oh yeah, Damon, we already got your credit card or debit card information or your PayPal or whatever I happen to use. Great. Okay. Then I'm going to purchase that new stuff from you, even though I don't know who you are aside from this business that's a product that I want to get for my mother. Shopify has it locked in. And so because they're the market leader in that, that makes it a lot easier. Similar to an Amazon or other platforms, when you're the leader, you can do that. I found them a little bit more expensive than some of the alternatives, and I'm actually going to suggest an alternative as well. But they have the system, and they're also very trusted within the space. Shopify is a great option. Be sure and click the link. There's actually I think they have some special stuff going on as well. So for Bring Your Worth viewers. And then an up and coming one, which I learned about earlier this year and I like quite a bit, it's called Selfie. these names, but Selfie, and it is an up and comer. Let me go ahead and tell you about them. Selfie is interesting because it's kind of taking that Shopify concept, pushing it a little bit further, where you can actually contain your products on there. So we're talking digital products. I have audiobooks, and shout to my musician friends. I love y'all. And so people who are making music, people who are creating things in an audio platform, print on demand, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But print on demand, which allows you to ship stuff out, subscription services, no transaction fees, and then I'm going to hop on down because they actually have they had one section here that was about pricing. Unfortunately, I think, where is the pricing? I think I lost it from here, but instead I'll tell you about it. So with Selfie, they actually have a flat fee as opposed to it being based on transaction. Again, let me repeat that. It being a flat fee instead of being based on transaction. In other words, with your business, you pay them a flat fee to host your stuff, to share your stuff, et cetera, et cetera. You could sell one, you can sell, I don't know, let's say 500. Unless there's a cap, that there might be a cap that's in the super high numbers, right? If you're the next viral sensation, you might need to upgrade. But for the most part, it's a flat fee. So it doesn't matter how many you sell and how many products you get out there. So that comes in handy when, for instance, for me, sometimes I'll sell a bunch of books, particularly after I've done like a talk or I'm on a TEDx stage or something. And then there'll be times where it'll be super quiet and I might sell just a handful of books. Same thing to get meta about it. Views of Bring Your Worth.tv, they go up and down depending on what's happening in the world. If I happen to hit a vein, if you happen to be at a moment where you're really into business, then you might watch all my episodes. If you're not, then maybe you won't watch as many. It's important, I think, to partner with organizations that will support you no matter what, versus you being able to afford them when things are really hot. With the flat fee system, if it's within your budget, it makes sense. Because then when things wildly swing, and I wish you all the success in the world, when you hit those waves, I've had several waves in my career where it's like, feel like, you know, business wise, things are ridiculously hot. And then things get chill and then things get hot again. So you want to work with organizations that allow you to have that flexibility. Again, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the third part of the discussion when we talk about e-commerce. That's a really important part of it because whatever e-commerce partners you have, you want to make sure it's sustainable. What I like about Selfie is that all of these things are usually split into different parts. Usually one for print on demand. There's usually one for digital products. There's usually one for physical products. There's one for affiliate marketing. There's one for subscription. This has a lot of these things. If you think about like a Patreon here and a Shopify over here and all that, this is a really good conglomerate. And in talking with them, they actually have a special just for Bring Your Worth to View viewers. If you type in the code special when you check out, you're actually going to get a nice percentage off. And I mean, really nice. Wink, wink. So be sure and check them out. And of course, because it's promotional, you'll be helping support the show. So I appreciate y'all. Got to talk about audience. Build audience from scratch. One of the most popular Bring Your Worth Bring Your Worth episodes, blah blah blah. That from the archives. Not that far back, but it feels like it was a good year or two ago. Be sure and check it out. It's a best of 3 or 4 episodes that talk about audiences and how you can build the audience. Again, if you're not promoting your book, then you've written a diary. If you have an app on the App Store but nobody knows it's there, then you just did a project. You don't really have a business. We're gonna kind of get you to the next level of that. That's why we're talking about this in this first episode of this series, talking about starting your business, is that we have to start with these foundations. As we just talked about earlier in the episode, got to have a website, you got to have a storefront. What are your questions as far as having a storefront? What are your concerns? Are you building something that's a physical or digital product? And what are your concerns when it comes to having a storefront about it? Jump in the comments, and myself or maybe even some of the other viewers will jump in. Even if you're watching the replay of this, be sure and do not be shy. Ask your questions, and then happy to chat more with you. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bringing Your Worth TV live Wednesdays at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. This, again, is part 1 of our series. Number 1, finally start your business. The whole series, all month long. Watch the whole series at the link below. Ow, my hands are just flying. The New Jersey's coming out. Watch the whole series, 1 through 4. Start your business now. If you're watching this live, then that means the live episodes are coming. Even more exciting, so that means you can participate, jump in the comments, say what's up, and maybe you'll get some of your answered, questions answered, some of your answers answered, your questions answered. And if you want to lock in, you can click on the link. All 4 episodes are there. And then you can go ahead and click on the individual episodes that you're most interested in. I'd say do the whole thing, but click on the episodes you're most interested in, then click the notification bell so you'll get a heads up when they go live, and you can jump in and say hi. You start a new business. How can I bring in my customers? More specifically, how can I bring customers to my website or to my platform? I think it's a really important discussion. It starts with a couple of different things. The first thing is, as we talked about earlier, having a proper website. Secondly, having a proper storefront, because it doesn't matter if you bring the customers, if they can't buy anything from you when they want to support your business or when you're supporting them in the right way and they really like your product or service. The third thing is having communication lines open. For some of y'all, that's going to be social media. And you pick your favorite social media platform and you master it. For other folks, it's going to be seeing people in person. That means hang out in the community. That means maybe doing public speaking or being involved in events. For other folks, like myself, I lean more towards this. The third way is building your own communication channels. Again, in a meta way, bringyourworth.tv is an opportunity for me to connect with y'all who are my potential and current customers, clients, and community. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily selling to y'all per se, but it does mean I have a clear line of communication where if I have a new book that comes out, if I have a new program, if I'm going to be speaking at a TED somewhere, then I have a way to directly communicate with y'all. For me, I do this three different ways. Number one, which is more passive, is my website. We mentioned that earlier in the program, damonbrown.net. That's headquarters. You don't need to be anywhere else. Like that's the vibes, right? Number two is through bringyourworth.tv. And that's, again, weekly or multiple, however you say it, multiple times a week. I don't think there's a word for that. Multiple times a week show, depending on the show and or depending on the week, right? And so I have a way to communicate with y'all directly. If I had a new book coming out, a new product coming out, a new app I was launching, I was going to be keynoting somewhere, then there's 18,000 plus of y'all as us talking live right now. So that there's no there's no billionaire oligarch that could say, oh no, he can't talk to them because this is a platform that, as much as possible when it comes to video, I own, right? So that's number two. Number three, newsletter. Join Damon.me. I've had that newsletter for decades at this point. Sounds weird to say, but that's about right. And then consistently for the past decade or so. But I've had it for multiple decades at this point. Back when it was a little thing where I was just catching up on people, post grad school, I think, is when I started the newsletter. And it's grown, of course, from there. Again, it's at joindamon.me. There's a reason why everybody and their mama has a Substack. I don't care for a Substack, but because they have a lot of issues going on, but you can't argue with the movement. That's why everybody has a Substack. That's why everybody has a newsletter. That's why I grew up in the era technology-wise when there were blogs. Seems like blogs are back. And that's why me and a lot of my colleagues at this point have some type of video or some type of podcast. There's a reason for that. We can actually own our pipeline, not as far as getting y'all to buy things, but own the pipeline as far as how we communicate and connect with y'all. There's power in that. There's strength in that. Sorry, they're doing construction at my building right now. Hopefully that noise isn't too loud. But there's a whole different level right now. There's a whole new level of you being able to communicate directly with your audience. It'll be a shame if you didn't take advantage of that. My favorite way to do that, aside from seeing y'all, your lovely faces virtually or otherwise once a week, is having a newsletter. My favorite newsletter platform provider right now is Beehive. I'm actually rocking a Beehive shirt. You can actually get it at the link. It's built for pioneers. First, I'm going to go ahead and show you my newsletter. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you about Beehive. In fact, let's flip it and reverse it. Shout out to Missy. I'm actually going to show you about Beehive first, and then we'll go ahead and go from there because it might be easier to show you the abstract and then to illustrate. All right. And then you can see the deal right at the top. So if you go to my preferred partner link right there, this is, yeah, we're fine with cookies. This is Beehive. And of course, again, you get the nice little discount and we'll be supporting the show if you do that. A lot of people rock with Beehive. I like Beehive for several different reasons. Number one, in fact, let's just focus on two reasons. Number one is the ease of use. Again, if you heard me correctly, I've had the newsletter for about 20 plus years. I've worked with so many different platforms. I remember starting my newsletter when it was just me emailing people and then sending a BCC In other words, a blind carbon copy. So other people, I wouldn't just spam the whole thing. Other people wouldn't know other people's email addresses and who was signed up to it. So I've seen it evolve literally over the past 2 decades. Some of the platforms that I've worked with have gotten so complicated, and having to essentially learn WordPress and the tagging and all this stuff. What I loved about Beehive, I started working with them probably about a year and a half ago. If you join my newsletter at joindamon.me, you saw when that transition happened. And what I loved about them, number one, is the ease of use. It was similar to me writing a blog post circa 2006. You click on it, you type in what you have to say. You want images? Great. Plop an image in there. So the ease of use was ridiculously high. Love it, love it, love it. If I have a newsletter idea in the middle of the night, which sometimes happens, or after I get my kids to bed, I'm like, oh, I need to write about that for the weekly newsletter. And I can go ahead and do it, write it out. I'm sleeping 20 minutes. Not a big deal. So the ease of use is super, super high. They now have templates and other things that you can plop in that they didn't even have before when I first started working with them. The second part, and I like this part, is monetize. Monetize, monetize, monetize. When you build your newsletter in my case, it was I do have a weekly newsletter, I'd say within 4 to 6 cycles, then there were potential advertisers that wanted to be in my newsletter. And you can get a pay per click or a pay per view. A pay per click means that someone clicks on it and then the advertiser will pay you per click. Pay per view, which sometimes has a different term to it, is basically how many people will actually open the newsletter and see the ad. So if you had 10,000 people that were rocking with your newsletter and 800 people open the newsletter, then you get paid for those 800 people. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So this allows you to actually generate revenue based on you having your newsletter. And to be frank, we'll talk about this a little bit later on in the series with upcoming episodes. When you're starting your business, you want to be as frugal as possible. You don't need to get your business cards yet if you're not going to be giving your business cards to anybody. You'll need to get an expensive website, URL, as far as getting Damon.com. Do you know how expensive Damon.com is? I don't even want to talk about it. There's a reason why it's DamonBrown.net, because I'd rather spend my money on my family or on growing my business. I'm not going to spend my money just on the URL. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if there's opportunities for you to have revenue coming in that will help you supplement you starting your business, you darn sure should take advantage of it. There's a lot of things I like about Beehive. As I mentioned at the top, you can go to my special link, and then you can get a discount for the first few months that you do it, as well as a complimentary 30-day trial. These change over time, so be sure and click on the link to see what the current offer is. But if you're watching it live, it is live. And shout out to Beehive. I appreciate y'all's support. So when it comes to my actual newsletter, then what I show y'all. Now this is joindamon.me. This is my front page for Beehive. So if you go to joindamon.me, you'll see that. And then you'll see I usually do a GIF and all these different things. And you see it's weekly. And it goes all the way back. And if we go to today's newsletter, for time to get started, then in partnership with 1440, shout out to them as far as sponsoring this week's newsletter. And then me talking about, as I talked about, the perfect time. And then in a meta way, and of course, a suggestion to subscribe. And of course, there's the video that we're doing right now, the live discussion we're having right now. But it's a really good way to connect with your audience because it allows you to connect with folks in ways that you actually own and that are more intimate than social media. Like some stuff I talk about in my newsletter, I wouldn't post that on social media, but there's a trusted relationship with y'all. I think it was Jenny Blake. Shout out to Jenny with her excellent book, Pivot, as well as I think she had a book that came out recently about managing your time. Shout out to her. But I remember her talking on her podcast, Pivot. I think she might have changed the name of it, but with her podcast, long running podcast. And she talked about someone catching a random video or a social media post. It would be like you walking walking down Fifth Avenue and kind of browsing the stores, kind of seeing what's happening. We called it window shopping back in the day. Subscribing to a newsletter or something as intimate as that, or signing up for like coaching, that's when, like back in the day, you would get the catalog coming. You get the J. Crew. You get the Victoria's Secret. You get the LL Bean. You get the, I don't know if Fubu had it, but the Fubu joint. Like you're committed. It's like being a subscriber to this channel. Like you're committed in a different type of way. That's what the newsletter is. It's basically saying the folks that subscribe to my newsletter, I can tell by their responses, they're like, no, I rock with you, Damon. And I want to see the next thing that you do. And I want to support whatever product you're doing next. I want to see it. I want to be the first to see it. When I'm launching a new app, I'm going to be keynoting somewhere. I got a new episode coming up that I haven't mentioned to people online yet or whatever. A new book coming out. They're getting the heads up first, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then we got to talk about, again, audience, how to grow an audience if you have none. If you're starting a business and it's in a direction that you don't normally go in, or you're doing it in a different way, perhaps you're a teacher working for a school district, and then you're doing an online course. Perhaps you're a journalist, and then suddenly you're an author. If there's these pivots, again, shout out again to Jenny, if there's these pivots, sometimes some of that audience comes with you. I've been a longtime author, a bestseller. Some of y'all came from when I was doing books. But when I started doing video, it was like audience building all over again. This gets into audience building, into the moves you can be making, and that audience eventually, if you're building a business, become perhaps your earliest customers, your earliest supporters. Those folks are going to get the word out that you should check out what's happening. When it comes to building audience, what are you most nervous about? Where do you think you might be struggling as far as starting your new business? Is that part of the reason why you haven't started your business yet? There's usually reasons, again, I'm a business coach, so there's usually reasons why we haven't started yet. Is building an audience part of it? Are you not sure the audience is there, or are you not sure how to reach them? Love to hear from y'all in the comments. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. This is Bring Your Worth Wednesdays live at 1:11 p.m. Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe below. Today, we're talking about finally starting your business. Live Q&A. Hopefully it gave you some insight as far as when it comes to the how much you should be spending on social media. One, number two, how much energy you should be putting towards having your website and your storefront, and how important that is, how pivotal that is. And number two, figure out exactly how to build that audience. And hopefully the links helped you out with that. Up next, I forgot to put the comment in there. I told you it was live. Up next, make your product real. Yes, you have the storefront. Cool. Yes, you got your website. You got your lead pages. Shout out to lead pages. Cool. You got all that going. Great. If you happen to miss it, just rewind and check it out. It's like, okay, now what do I do? How do I make this thing actually happen? I need to have something to ship. We're going to be talking about that next. If you're watching this live, then it'll be the next episode coming up. If you're watching the replay, just hold tight. And we're about to get into it right now. Until next time, or until the next episode in a few minutes. Remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.